I grew up playing a wide variety of games back in my childhood, from the kid-friendly adventure RPG Pokemon on Game Boy to the M-rated first-person shooter Half-Life for PC. I jumped around genres a lot, but for the most part stuck around adventure platformers. Don't get me wrong, my taste definitely varies from time to time, but I always seem to find myself being drawn into the simplistic yet rewarding design these games had to offer. You felt like you were on a journey. The world needed saving and it was up to you to pull through, make it to the end of each level, collect goodies, defeat the bosses along the way, and finally come face to face with your arch nemesis, the bastard who's been causing you the trouble from the start, kick his balls in and make him eat dirt. If nothing else, it was the least I could ask for in a game. An adventure through a different world, great mechanics to explore, completely at the mercy of those who designed it. Spyro the Dragon definitely fits into this category, and has been one of my favorites since early childhood. Developed by Insomniac as their career-starting title, nothing comes close to touching the original trilogy on PS1. As for right now, I don't plan on going super in-depth into the originals. Honestly, if you don't know about them or never played them before, the only review you need is their total greatness. And if that doesn't quite cut it for you, the Stimulant made a great review series covering the first 3 games, analyzing them in detail and offering his personal opinions. Check that out if you're interested. As for me, what I'm going to be focusing on right now is a little bit later on down the Spyro timeline. First of all, Spyro faced a pretty similar fate as Crash Bandicoot did in the late 90s. And if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, in a nutshell, both series were being worked on by third-party developers, Crash with Naughty Dog and Spyro with Insomniac, published by Universal Interactive. Once their contracts were over with, both developers wanted to break their ties with Universal, deeming them an unnecessary middleman in hopes of working directly with Sony as a first-party developer. The act of doing this, though, cost them the rights to their intellectual property. Naughty Dog had to say goodbye to Crash, as well as Insomniac to Spyro. Both franchises were owned by Universal, and it was up to them to find new developers to continue the series. And with that little bit of history out of the way, here's what I got today. Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly. Released in 2002 as the first console Spyro game entirely out of the hands of the original creators. Well, looking at the box, it totally looks like Spyro, no complaints yet. Yet if I didn't know better, I'd have no reason to assume this wasn't made by Insomniac. But it was actually made by Equinox and Check 6. Well, you can't judge a book by its cover, or a game by its case, so let's pop this in and see if it stacks up to the likes of the original games at all.
Three weeks later.
Well, for one, it definitely takes long enough to load when you start it up. I'm gonna give it the benefit and hope that's the only time it takes so long. Now to start a new game, pick our save icon, and you know it's gotta be this one. Just fucking this one. It takes that long to load every time, doesn't it? Now this intro cutscene is probably the best thing I've ever seen, and I'm gonna play it for you right now in its entirety. Wow! Masterful. So anyway, I guess this is just some party going on with the younger dragons getting their dragonflies, or their guardians, if you will. And for whatever reason, Spyro, Hunter, and Bianca just hanging out, who all, I might add, look absolutely disgusting. I mean, look at these character models. How did they come out so bad? How is it they look so much better and infinitely more appealing in the PS1 games? And this is PS2 we're talking about here. It's a whole one better. It's gotta be at least twice as good. And don't even get me started on those PlayStation 4 graphics. Then eventually Ripto shows up and, hang on a second. Ripto? At the end of Spyro 2, he falls into a lake of lava and incinerates. Spoilers. Not to mention his 2 minions, Gulp and Crush, died in various ways during that game as well. So what the fuck are they doing here? Whatever, it's probably best just to not question it.
What do we want this time, boss?
Okay, since when did either Gulp or Crush talk? And this voice!
What do we want this time, boss?
This is getting very wrong, very quick on so many levels. It's like Equinox E and Check 6 didn't have a fucking clue. Check 6. What the hell did they check 6 times? The previous Spyro games? Shit. They probably didn't even do that once. Obviously, they were a bit distracted though. You could tell they put all their time and effort into that shiny ass refraction shader on Ripto's bling. is glistening.
You know, you should join me. We would make a great team.
So Ripto tells Spyro that they should join forces, and to Ripto's surprise, that doesn't really happen. And why would it? Ripto made it very clear in Spyro 2.
I hate dragons! Gah!
Why would he just show up unprompted, returning from the dead with no explanation, and ask Spyro to hang out? And I just love the way Spyro immediately shoots him down, and Ripto plays it off like it totally doesn't tear away at him inside. Hey, what's up? Wanna grab a coffee or something? Hell nah! Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Ripto proceeds with his plan and snatches up all the dragonflies, and pisses off surprisingly quick. Sparks ends up getting captured as well, as Hunter lets us know with his amazing linguistic skills that even Shakespeare couldn't top.
That little lizard totally stole all the dragonflies. Even Sparks is gone.
Everybody follows Bianca and Sparks is found, just hanging out in some room. And that's the end of the game. Conflict resolved. Honestly, my first time watching this, I felt like I must have missed something. Sparks, your companion, gets captured, and they set off to look for him. It seemed to me like at least a decent enough plot device. But the literal very next scene, he's just jerking around 10 feet away. Seriously, what the fuck? Why was he just here? How did Bianca know to look there? What was even the fucking point then? You know, I thought maybe it would have been an interesting way for them to mix it up a little, make some new mechanics around Spyro not having sparks as you journey to go get your friend back. But God forbid they do something different. Spark buzzes around for the second time as a segment of dialogue without subtitles, which seems like a perfectly good waste of 10 seconds to me. Bianca hits you with some magic that gives you the ability to use new powers. These powers include breathing bubbles, breathing lightning, and breathing ice. I guess I have to give them some credit for coming up with something new, but these powers are generic at best and feel more lazily cobbled together than anything else. To explain what I mean, the power-ups that came along over the course of the original 3 games included Supercharge, Infinite Flight, Invincibility, Head Bash, Climbing, Swimming, etc. They weren't all necessarily tied to one specific mechanic. Oh, but in Enter the Dragonfly you have, breath, and don't forget breath. Getting into actual gameplay now, finally. Right off the bat, I can say this totally doesn't feel like a Spyro game at all. The controls are quite mushy as opposed to the tight, snappy, responsive controls of the original games. The way you move doesn't feel deliberate. You kinda just point the stick and Spyro drunkenly saunters over in that vague direction. Oh, hang on a second, tutorial. It's like they tried their damnedest to get it close enough, but it's more like, hang on, tutorial. And jumping and gliding feel off. It almost feels like you're swimming through jello, not flying in the air. Hang on, tutorial.
Nice work, Spyro.
What the fuck, Flying Hunter? Did you see that shit? He just up and awayed. Yeah, it's more like they knew what they were going for, but just ended up... Hang on, tutorial. You know, I'm starting to realize something. There's tutorials for everything. Every 2 steps you take, you end up walking somewhat sort of close to a thing, and it's like they gotta explain the thing in super detail. These tutorials can be quite intrusive most of the time. I was minding my own damn business, doing some challenge trying to burn scarecrows or something, and this motherfucking dragon statue interrupted. Just trying to tell me about bubble breath or some shit, I don't know. It totally ruined the challenge. Now I gotta start it all over, which is harder than it sounds, on account of the controls suck pee-pee. The first Spyro games didn't have this many tutorials, especially for shit that was just totally obvious. If you had never played any of the other Spyro games before playing this one, I'm sure you wouldn't be totally lost if some of these tutorials just didn't exist. But I'm gonna limit my bitching at that because luckily there's an option to turn them off. I'm also starting to notice some major frame rate issues, at least in the PS2 version. Most of the time it's just a low frame rate, but at least if it was just that, I could get used to it. But the frame rate is super inconsistent, jumping from sub 30 FPS to at least 60 at random times. It's giving me a shitty headache over here. So the main overall objective in the game is to collect the dragonflies, similar to the eggs in Spyro 3. To capture them, you switch over to your bubble breath and spray it at the dragonflies, trapping them in a bubble. This can be a lot easier said than done at some points. Sometimes I was able to trap them within seconds. Other times I spent goddamn forever chasing these bitches around. Which honestly brings up one other question. Why the hell are the dragonflies even running from you? They're supposed to be on your side. Ripto kidnapped them, at least that's what I thought happened, but he more or less just teleported them to random ass places. Nevertheless, you're trying to save them and return them home. But they're out over there pissing around, making your life more difficult when you're both trying to accomplish the same goal. They're just being cacks.
They're shy and will probably run away from you anytime you come near them.
Okay, well they're shy. I guess that's why they're going at you. So heading into the first level, the Dragonfly Dojo. This Dragon Master tells us that it's good we had the sense to free him.
Thank goodness you had the sense to free me from that icy cage.
I'm instantly regretting that decision. He proceeds to tell us how the Riptox invaded the dojo and somehow gained the ability to freeze the Dragon Masters for some reason, and he asks us to return the dojo to its original peaceful state.
Remember, Spyro, the way of the dragon is to be a dragon.
Whoa, man, this guy is super threatening. You know, I better show off my moves too. Intimidation should get this guy to saw it off. Look what I can do. Check this out. If you mash jump and charge at the same time, Spyro does this doofy stutter jump. You can kind of tell the controls were just tossed together really quickly and weren't really properly tested at all. And speaking of that, what the hell is going on here? That's gotta be my total ninja skills. I must be doing better than I thought. Come at me, ninjas. Rusty.
Spyro, my kite got stuck up in the tree.
Kite's gonna have to wait, Rusty.
Could you get my kite out of the tree for me, Spyro?
Okay, gonna have to wait.
I can't reach
Don't
it
do this to me,
because
Rusty.
there's nothing here to stand on.
Come on.
It's me.
God damn it, Rusty! Oh boy, everybody's favorite character. Good thing he's here. Just what we needed. What's a Spyro game without money bags? Besides not annoying, as usual, the greedy bastard wants gems and will hold you back from completing the level unless you pay him. Which I gotta add, the animation for is just hilarious. Speaking of gems, they're weird as hell in this game. Sometimes they spawn with no physics, suddenly gaining physics a short time later. Spawning upside down, the yellow gem, normally worth 10 in previous Spyro games, sometimes is randomly worth 25. Oh, and never mind. Sometimes it's also worth 0 too. Fucking 0. God, trying to get some of these dragonflies, man. Come on, come on. I honestly don't know what I'm doing wrong or right. Some are just impossible to catch, and others I can catch immediately.
Hey, it's Cinder.
Cinder? That's kind of weird, seeing as how there's a dragon character named Cinder who shows up in later Spyro games. I doubt there's any correlation. You know what? Let's try out a minigame. 10 years later, when it finally loads, we find out it's a vehicle stage.
Will you clear out the tank training arena?
Well, if I say no, that would make sitting through that load screen for God only knows how long a total waste of time. I guess I should at least check it out, but it would be nice to know how to control the tank. What? Did the game just totally glitch out or something? There's no audio for the voice when I ask for the tutorial. Or did they really think nobody would want to know how to control the tank? Am I the weird one here? Because that seems like it would be something pretty useful to know. Or did they just forget to record the actor's lines for the tutorial and say fuck it and slap it in there text only? Well, let's get on with it. Well, right off the bat, this isn't the worst thing ever. The tank controls well enough and it gets the job done as a minigame. But there's one thing I find a bit odd. So, the dragons designed tanks for dragons to use? At the mystical, peaceful dragon dojo that trains martial arts? Key to the concept that violence doesn't solve things and should only be used if absolutely necessary? Tanks don't really make sense from a logical standpoint, but I'm sure they weren't really thinking that far into it. Whatever, I got the Dragonfly, let's bounce. 10 years later, back to the main level, I'm really starting to notice the toll this frame rate is taking on my brain. You may be able to see what I'm talking about from watching it, but playing it is totally different. It's really unsettling when it's running all choppy then jumps up super smooth. If you get motion sickness, this would totally make you blow chunks. And I think it may have something to do with all these weird effects and particles they're trying to pull. Look at all the unnecessary fog all over it. When you breathe fire, particles just spray everywhere. And it doesn't even look good. Look at this goddamn whirlwind. Remember how whirlwinds looked in the PS1 games? Sure, less fancy particles, but so much better looking, and it doesn't crash the game. Seriously, was this worth it? Overloading the PS2 with these garbage-ass particles and effects, and making it look worse than if they would have just gone with a more old-school approach. And my favorite effect of all is on the exit portal. Look at that, just beautiful. In Spyro 1 through 3, the portal showed the sky of the level you were about to enter, and a neat effect that made it look like it had depth and actually went somewhere. This looks like an archway of water. Who thought this was acceptable? Check 6. I oughta check you 6 times across the face. Well, apparently while I was in the dojo, I picked up a rune for to make with the lightning breath. So we take it over to the dragon statue and he grants us the power. That's essentially how all the power-ups go. Not sure why getting the rune alone wasn't enough, or what the point of the dragon statue is. It just means you have to make it back here from wherever you were when you got the rune. Well, now that we got the lightning breath, let's go ahead and zap open this gate and get to the next level. Crop Circle Country! A level totally inspired by the cliche idea of aliens invading farmland and abducting animals for whatever reason. It kind of reminds me of Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is a good thing. But I've got my reservations about Farmer Deal here. I've got this odd feeling that he's hiding something.
Hey, it's Akira.
Akira lies and where I'm going, will you follow? Akira lies and through the darkness of the night. Well, eventually you find the Terminator's wanker just hanging around, which confused me a little bit at first, and oddly enough I assumed was just for decoration, until I got stuck. I mean, who wouldn't solely design a game around the concept of metallic cacks all over the place? But it turns out you're supposed to use your newly gained lightning breath on it to make a platform come down. How was I supposed to expect that of all things? I just got the lightning breath a minute ago and only used it once before this. I wasn't in any way informed of its usage other than to open the locked gate. It turns out it's for zapping iron peckers to get platforms to do what you want. Okay, so I'm doing another challenge here, trying to burn up some scarecrows, but I can't seem to find the last one. Is it over here? No. Well, it would be pretty convoluted if they put it way over here, but I wouldn't put it past them, so let's take a look. I told you there was something I didn't like about him. Okay, well, I wonder what important information this guy has to say.
It's the cheese.
Well, you know, I think it's about time for another minigame.
Hey, wait a minute. How does Farmer John have a UFO?
I knew it! He's an alien! Look at him! I knew he wasn't human. He's got that head exploding power, and the power to change his name to John. Well, once again, when I ask how to control the vehicle, there's no voiceover. It just makes me think they were too cheap to record the different tutorial lines for the different consoles. So they recorded nothing. Okay, sounds like fun. Well, that's not exactly the case, but let's go for it anyway. Oh, sweet Jesus. This has got to be the worst controlling thing ever. It's so fucked up, even the AI can't get a hang of it. Well, he's just out of here. And you know what? I don't blame him. God, I'm already getting sick of this country-ass, farm-ass alien bullshit. You know, I actually got an idea how to make this go a little bit quicker. Alley-up! And there we go. I did it. I made it to Ripto, and I beat him. What? Did you really think I was gonna play more of it than that? No. I honestly can't stand any more of this shit. It's just a broken down rehash of Spyro 3, with absolutely nothing new at all or interesting. You just gotta recycle that last game and not do anything special to make it stand out on its own as a memorable part of the series. Even if this game was made by semi-competent people over the course of more than 5 months, it would just be a clone of Spyro 3. But not only is that not the case, it's a back-ass broken shitty clone of Spyro 3. You know, I take that back. This game really does stand out on its own in the series. It's the shitty one! The shitty one! Hey Pat, what are you playing? Oh, just some Spyro. Oh, which one? The shitty one! The fucking shitty one! Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go shave off this beard this game inadvertently made me grow. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I would like to take this time to thank the Stimpyland for helping supply me with some footage. And over there on the left, you can click to see his review of the original Spyro series, implying he hasn't taken it down again because he gets in trouble for copyright all the time like a big dummy. Follow the link on the right to see me and Sam looking at some Silent Hill 2, along with my beautiful girlfriend Deanna, who I'd also like to thank for letting me borrow her copy of Spyro Enter the Dragonfly to make this review possible. You can have it back. I also have a Facebook page now, so you can click that glowy Facebook button. It should take you directly to my page. And be sure to give me a like over there because I could sure use a like. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that big glowy subscribe button. Oh, look at that. Glowy. And as always, be sure to give me a thumbs up unless you're not a cool guy. Only cool guys hit the thumbs down. I mean up. Hit the thumbs up, not the... I've been looking at Enter the Dragonfly too long. Thanks for watching. Get out of here.